Good evening, good afternoon, good night, good morning, whatever it is you tune in. Hope you're doing well. For probably eh, we have one more stream tomorrow, hopefully projected. But for the last Falcon stream, uh, I've been Noah,
Your host, co-host, Trey.
and we've had a lot of things to discuss, and we're gonna continue to have a lot of things to discuss. And I'm gonna tell you this much, Trey. I don't have anywhere to be, unlike mostly Saturdays. So I got time to sit down and chill, and I want everybody else that's wants to sit down and have this conversation with us to sit down, buckle up. You're in for a beefy treat. So I think how we want to start this off is by first of all saying what the heck was that last game against the Colts?
What we could be, or we should be,
It just
we
makes
no
like
sense.
I said during the stream how it was like a matchup between weakness versus weakness and strength versus strength. I just wasn't expecting us to, like, after 5 minutes into the game, win both of those matchups for 4 quarters in a row. That's like winning 8 coin tosses and knowing the answer every single time. That's like I was not expecting that. So whew.
Name dominated team that just dominated the Steelers the week before. That just dominated the Bengals. So it's like,
And then how we look like we could have been dominated by anybody the week before. So it's insane. But what isn't insane? The people we got here: Blackheart Gaming, Michael, Mafi. Glad to have you guys here. Whew. Anybody else that's involved here? You can go ahead and get your name out there. We'll shout you out. If you're here, man, hope you got some spare time. Blackheart had a question. He said the against the Colts is what we can be when we don't turn the ball over. That's
oh yeah, that was our first game in like 6 weeks. We didn't turn the ball over.
well, we did not turn the ball over against the Jets, but that still didn't explain like the sheer offensive prowess that we had then. Um, so yeah, it was wild, but it was a pleasant surprise. It was just Jacksonville. What the heck happened?
Yeah, so hey,
That
first
was
of
the one thing that would have made the rest of the weekend like great. And of course, that game needed to happen afterward. Tampa needed to also just blow that team out of the water. So I don't know. I didn't think that we could win, that we could win, and I would still be upset. It was because of another team.
and the thing
Coach,
is,
what's
they were
happening with
like
yourself?
fully healthy. Like you have Trevor. Only guy you're really missing is Christian Kirk. You're going against one of the worst pass defenses in the NFL. Even if they lost, I wasn't expecting them to get blown out by 20. That was like, bro, like, come on, man. I mean, out of like all the times y'all decided to lose and lose embarrassingly and give that team even more confidence, you lost to the Bucks. To the Bucks.
God, I
This is
can't.
kind of reminding me of like 2020 almost. Like they're heating up at the perfect time when everyone needs help. We need help, and they're just heating up. It's like,
And
bro,
that's what's
come on.
unfortunate about what's been happening with us the past couple of weeks is that we put ourselves in the situation where we don't control our own destiny. Um,
And all we had to do was hold a team for 58 seconds and beat the Panthers. Mm-mm-mm.
it's never going to be that easy. Anyways, Mafia had a question: could Dante Fowler be better in this defense than what he was with in Dan Quinn? I don't care about him anymore. If we wanted to have another pass rusher, we had our chance with Montez Sweat. We've had our chance with Robert Quinn. We still could have our chance with a guy like Yannick Ngakwe, who's also in Chicago. We could have had our chance with Danielle Hunter, and we still could have all our chances with them. And then of course, like we have the draft coming up. We only have 2 games left in this season, and then not to mention the development at defensive end with guys like Zach Harrison really coming into form now. That's been really encouraging. Been really enjoying watching him. So I think that we have enough young guys. Like Dante Fowler, he's not even at his best what Bud Dupree has been for us.
Oh yeah, especially in the run defense.
And that's kind of what we need, and that's kind of who we already have. So if we're trying to get Dante Fowler, that kind of seems like a downgrade again.
I mean, we got rid of the trash. Why are we trying to go get it back out the dumpster? You know.
Exactly. Like,
It's really no point in it.
oh,
He's not better than any of the pass rushers we have on the team right now. All he would do is take away snaps from AK and Bud and Lorenzo. So it's just like,
man, I don't want that.
and you know,
Michael, you've asked the question of the hour. It might take an hour in order to answer this question because Trey, I got your immediate response when the question was posted a couple days ago. Do you still stand on that statement?
oh yeah, yes, I do. I will stand on that statement until he's with another team that is not named the Atlanta Falcons. Cause just like no, like
we'll get into the reasons and stuff because I want to gather information. That's part of the stream. Is I would have wanted to like talk about this had my internet just not been complete, but so what I'm going to pull up right now is pull up a couple of sites and on. All right, so we're going to have that there. Sorry, just doing some pulling up some extra sites for us to look at. All right. So we are now entering the gathering info section of the show, and the topic is: do you want it to be Russ first, or do you want it to be like Justin Fields?
we'll deal with Justin Fields later. Let's get this Russ thing over with.
Okay. So let's gather the info that we have of him right now before we start making the case either for or against him. So since we actually disagree on this will be very interesting to kind of voice out our opinions. Go. Just go like news and stuff. All right. So what I want to gather right now is his situation with the Broncos currently. So I know that he had to restructure his deal. All right, so let's get this here. And I'm going to put it on the screen so that everybody that is paying attention can also follow along. All right. So it's from this article by Jeff Legwold. All right. So the article says Russell Wilson said that in the days after he helped orchestrate the Denver Broncos' first win over the Kansas City Chiefs since 2015, team officials approached him to adjust his salary guarantee in his contract, and if he didn't, he would be benched for the rest of the year. Coach Sean Payton announced Wednesday that Wilson lost his starting job in favor of Jarrett Stidham for Sunday's home game against the Chargers. Payton has said it was strictly a decision based on winning and to get a spark offensively. That's just lip service. But Wilson said Friday the Broncos approached him about waiving a guarantee in the 5-year, $242.6 million contract he signed in 2022, and that would give the veteran quarterback, who is already guaranteed $39 million, whether he is on the team or not, another $37 million, his 2025 salary, guaranteed if he could not pass a physical on the 5th day of the new league year in March. All right, so I want everyone to keep that in mind here. So he's already getting $39 million from the Broncos in 2024. He was approached about waiving the rest of this off, about the $37 million per his physical, in 5 days in the March of the new NFL season. Team sources have said they hope to adjust the timing of that guarantee. Speaking Friday, Wilson said the team's decision makers told him on the Monday or Tuesday after the Broncos' October 29th win over the Chiefs that they would bench him if he didn't adjust that $37 million guarantee. They definitely told me I was going to be benched and all that, Wilson said. That whole bye week, I didn't know what was going to be the case. I was going to be ready to play. I wanted to go to Buffalo and beat Buffalo, and he did. I wasn't going to remove the injury guarantee. This game is such a physical game. I've played 12 years and all that. I want to be able to play. I want to be able to help this team win. I know every time I step on the field, it's a physical game. I never play timid. I never play scared. The Broncos were 3-5 after the win versus the Chiefs, and an injury to Wilson over the season's final 9 games could have triggered the guarantee if it was serious enough for him to be unable to pass a physical come March. Wilson said the NFL and its Players Association got involved, and he remained Denver starter as the team posted wins over the Bills, the Minnesota Vikings, and Cleveland Browns in the weeks that followed. But with the 3 losses in the past 4 games, including Sunday to New England, after which Payton was openly critical of the offense, Wilson formally was benched. Following Friday's practice, Payton continued to reaffirm the decision was about a winning and that he was not privy to conversations about benching Wilson over a contract issue. He pointed to general manager George Payton and the owner Greg Penner. I'm not privy to any of those discussions. I'm handling the football. That's something with George in the front office. I'm not involved in any of that. Certainly involved in a lot. And there will be a time and place at the end of the season to maybe ask some of the questions that you may want to ask, or someone will be able to answer. I know how this team is, or how this has been written, but the decision is strictly what I believe gives us a chance to win. Number 8, hard decision. There will be no other reasons. Wilson called the discussions and threat to bench him a low blow. We got to 3-5, beat the Chiefs. It definitely hurt. A low blow. Those are good teams. As far as like his situation, what the Broncos do with Wilson moving forward will be the biggest roster decision and the team faces in the offseason. Denver has just 6 draft picks in April with no second rounder and would face dead money charges of $85 million over the 2024 and 2025 seasons combined if the team cut Wilson. Wilson continues to express hope that he has a future with the Broncos, but admitted that he has considered the possibility he does not. So that is his side of things right there. That kind of covers everything else so far. Now, what I want to show you next, and hopefully this clears up some extra stuff. Let's just get that out. So I think Spot Rack has updated this information. I'm hoping so. All right, so there's that cap hit 35.4. There's that cap hit of 55.4. That would be straight to Denver. There's all that dead cap for $85 million there.
Now, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Talking about all this dead cap. So, one, we all know that if he was traded, Broncos will now take, the largest dead cap thing from us, with the whole Matt Ryan thing and us having the largest dead cap in NFL history. They will now have that because his contract is
pretty much, yeah,
3 times the size of Matt Ryan's. But would you want to pay that for him, or take Justin Fields and pay his $21 million and see what happens.
So when you say pay that for him, what do you mean?
Like okay, so Justin Fields' 5th-year option, if he's traded anywhere, they're gonna have to get his 5th-year option, which
Here's
is
the thing.
21.
He's going to get cut. This is not a trade situation.
True.
It would be Justin you'd have to trade for.
But the thing is, I just don't think the Broncos would want to trade him for nothing when they have basically you're taking on over $50 million in dead cap.
But they've already established that they're going that direction.
Now, if they're that stupid and they actually do that, then it is what it is.
Trying to find the article that mentioned that. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up now. Hopefully there's no other. Trying to get the ad and stuff out of the way. Get that. And all right, so we'll just shift ourselves over to this. Okay. Release, not trade, is the most likely outcome for Broncos and Russell Wilson. This was posted on December 27th. They soon will be cutting quarterback Russell Wilson. Less than 2 years after they gave up their 2 first-round picks, 2 seconds, a 5th-round pick, tight end Noah Fant, and defensive tackle Shelby Harris, and quarterback Drew Lock to get Wilson. And only 15 months after giving him a massive deal that will have paid out $119 million over 2 years. With the Seahawks paying another $5 million, the Broncos are moving on. That's Coach Sean Payton's way. Once it's been determined that a mistake has been made, don't double down. Move on, move out. If Payton had any desire to keep Wilson at the terms of his current deal, Wilson wouldn't be benched for the balance of the season. They'd keep things going with Wilson instead of looking for a spark from Jarrett Stidham. A trade could happen, but it won't. Wilson has a no-trade clause, and he has no reason to waive it. Why consent to an arrangement that results in him and his new team giving anything of value to the Broncos when Wilson can simply wait to be released and pick his destination? Does that help you out?
Yeah, it does. Okay, so basically.
So they're locking him up like he's getting $37 million or something regardless, no matter who takes him as a team. Now, what that does is that the next team doesn't have to worry about that money, obviously. And if they have to sign him, it wouldn't be to the same kind of deal. Like, there's no way that Russell Wilson's going in there and be like, oh, hey, I know what just happened back there that like everyone saw and everyone's talking about, but how about another 5-year, $100 million, something like there's no way that he does that. Especially not at his age right now. And given that he's, like he has his uses for a good number of teams, us being one of them clearly. But he has to recognize that a team can't bring him on for the long term. And that's what that deal was when he was with Denver, back when he was at the young and spry age of 34 or whatever. So if we're hung on the fact that they're trying to trade him, there's no trade value because there's no trade clause. And it doesn't make sense for Russell Wilson to kind of waive that. So this is why we're in the gathering info section before we start talking about making the case for or against him. Because this is all a lot of stuff to think about. Now, the other thing that I want to take a look at is like his actual performance this season.
Actually hasn't been that bad. I mean, it's not like he's been MVP, but it's, from a Russell Wilson 35-year-old standpoint, it's been pretty decent overall.
So, as you say that, he has completed 297 passes this year. Like, these are going to be, end of the year numbers because obviously he's not going to be playing anymore. So his stats as they are will be the final stats to show. Unless Stidham gets hurt, which even then I think that they'd rather throw out their third stringer. Okay, so once everyone can see this, he's completed 297 passes for 66.4% completion rate. He hasn't reached that mark since 2019, or that high of a mark since 2019, or actually 2020. He's passed for just over 3,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, 26 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions. All right, we have a quarterback rating of 98. He has taken 45 sacks. That's kind of been a theme in his career, as you can tell. Per attempt is 6.04. And he has had 4 fourth quarter comebacks and 4 game-winning drives. And the Broncos with him have been a total of 7-8.
With also
now we say this, like his yards per game has been $204 yards per game, so not a bad average. QBR was kind of going back up in the stats, especially compared to last year. So, yeah, how do we feel about this? Like, not even looking at, his whole scheme and stuff, because I think that can be fine-tuned to fit his standard. That's the other thing, too, is that I was having a conversation with my coworker, and he's a massive Seahawks fan. And one of the things that he told me is that back in 2019, him and Pete Carroll had a dispute. The dispute was over whether or not Russ was fine with them being a balanced offense, or was he going to be more pass heavy if it meant that he could chase that MVP? That game in which they were having that kind of discussion was against us when we had to start Matt Schaub. So the rest of that season, like if we're going back to the 2019 Seahawks, if you're really reading this correctly, they then had the game against Tampa, the game against San Francisco, the game against Philly, the game against Minnesota. So, like, once they were on this path, they were 10-2. Wilson put up 40 points, 27, 17, 37 points. Like, they were looking like really massive favorites. And then, of course, that's when Lamar decided to pull away with his December performance there. So, and then these late losses to within their division did not help his case. Now, if we take a look at like what he did at that time, 4,000 yards, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 106 quarterback rating, 48 sacks, but that's with playing one more game than what he's done so far. Same amount of fourth quarter comebacks, just one more game winning drive, but one more game played, or a couple more games played. But
okay, so
I want to take a look at the rushing stuff too, because that's also been a part of his game. He also had 300 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns at the time. He still has that amount if we go back to this current year. I think he also had just over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. But, yeah. Pete Carroll move the ball. I'm hearing my own self on your side. I don't know if there's like an echo.
It's good now.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Pete Carroll wanted to push Chris Carson and all them have that running game really be effective down the stretch. Russell didn't want that because of how close he was to achieving his MVP for the first time in his career. And that also didn't work out. So once they met Green Bay, they kind of fizzled out that way. And then 2020, like the rift got so bad that then they traded him. I want to say what, the next year?
I think so.
Yeah. Well, that happened late 2019. Then they were still like kind of going through the process. They had their own drama from within. And then 2021 was like the end of it, where they finally found a team that was willing to take on the deal and the rest of the contract. I think that's kind of what they were waiting for as well.
Man, for the rest to get picks.
Right. And then having a quarterback.
I mean, I just don't think they were expecting Geno Smith to come in and do what he did.
Part of me thinks they were. Because the only other person that they had on the depth chart at the time was Drew Lock. You couldn't trust him either.
But it was like, I think they wanted to draft him back in 2019, but they weren't willing to use a first round on him, of course, because they didn't use it on him. In their second day, he was picked like 6-7 picks before their second round pick, I think. So it was like, okay, so who's going to be better in training camp? Geno ended up being better in training camp. But I think they wanted him to be good, but I don't think they expected him to be like all Pro Bowl level good, like. Because at that point, he was a career journeyman. Most amount of games he had started in the season was like 3 or 4. And every time he started the offense, the offense he was in didn't do so well. So they kind of got their lucky break there. Now I kind of want to look at the good that Russell Wilson will bring to us before I kind of go back to no. Because I'm still sticking with no. But I kind of want to go to the good on what he will bring. So one, older veteran, so we wouldn't have to worry about, we can't really use the rookie mistakes for him.
Do you want me to handle this?
If you want to.
Because I mean, this is what I was going to do anyways. So yeah, what you were talking about right now with the veteran presence, right? We'll start with that. So if we're comparing him to a quarterback like Justin Fields, who's been here for a couple of seasons in the NFL, obviously, or a rookie quarterback, right? There's a couple of obvious disparities. And one of them was we talked about like playoff experience, right? Now, does that matter? It seems kind of arbitrary on our side, but what I was looking at when I had that thought was, have they found a way to beat the better teams? Right? So have they found a way to go up against those great defenses and like left with a victory? As we just saw multiple times this season, Russell Wilson has been able to do that, even with a Broncos team that not only has like Michael's saying, with like not a very good offensive line, not at all, especially when you compare it to ours. They are very limited as far as like their receiving core, just about as much as us. I mean, they have Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Those are like the two mainstays. Everyone else are like about as middle of the pack as ours has been, as far as like the receiving stuff. And then the run game, I think for a while they've had some IJP run because Javonte Williams keeps getting hurt. So like that's been their offense. It's just been Rustin and whatever they've been able to throw in around him. And the defense was good like the year before. I don't know what their defensive stats have looked like so far this season. I'm going to take a look at that real quick. They're 29th in scoring defense.
The Broncos?
Yeah, so they're 16th in scoring. They're just 29th in scoring points against. Now, this is a 50-point disparity, and I think I know the game that caused that.
Oh. So early in the season too. That was like week 3.
Week 3.
70 bomb. Tyreek Hill and
And
Jalen the day.
if you look at that game, I think that was the last game in which Russell Wilson threw for over 300 yards.
But it was like garbage time yards. So like
He kind of kept it close at halftime. I mean, that's where their
35
points
to
were.
0.
Well, there was a point where it was like 28-13 or something.
Okay. Well, hold on. Let me go check that. Let's go.
But
check.
the other thing about that is they had a kickoff return.
Oh yeah, that's where.
And that was like at the very end of the game, right
Yeah.
after they scored 70. And then that's what led them to have the 20. But you say it was garbage time. Like Russell Wilson should not have been out there for the rest of that game. And I think that like Sean Payton made sure that he like felt that embarrassment because Sean Payton is also an a-hole. So
yeah, it was 35-13 at halftime.
And like 2 of those touchdowns were like just before just after the 2-minute warning.
At that point, as soon as they go up, well, what would it be? 49-13. What's the point of having Russell out there anymore at that point?
I mean, if you want to have a spark offensively,
and
he had 1 turnover that game, but all 10 of those touchdowns for Miami was against the defense.
Let me see. Yeah,
like there was no scoop and score. There was no pick six. There was no special teams touchdown. They were all on the offense against the defense.
Yeah, 23-38, 306 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And from what I'm looking at it, there was no pick sixes.
Nope.
Yeah, no pick sixes. Just a whole bunch of rushing and passing touchdowns. Oh, yeah, because Michael, I was about to say, where did the other 6 touchdowns come from? Michael White came in there and threw 2 of them.
To Chosen Anderson. Remember him?
Anderson and Devon A-Chain had a 67-yard run, 10-yard pass from Tua, 19-yard pass from Tua to Raheem. Raheem 1-yard touchdown. Yeah, a lot. It really wasn't even a lot of long touchdowns. They were just driving down the field and scoring, but they were like, it was like the Broncos were giving the ball back so quick. It was like there's no way they don't put up 70 because they only had 2 touchdowns that were longer than 50 yards. When I was
and like I want to say one of them was like the first one to Tyreek. I think that was
the first touchdown, 54 yards when he did that flip, took the dude's camera, got him fired. I really don't like the NFL. That was cool, dude.
Yeah, it sucks because they were friends. Like that's the only reason he did that. Anyways, point is, they had a 50-point disparity in their points for and points against, and that was the biggest reason as to why. So, yeah, as far as like the team that has been built around him, let's just say it does not really compare to who we have and the holes that we would need to fill in the offseason too, right? So, from all things considered, Russell Wilson is having a better season than like what his stats are proving because there's a lot going against him there. So you take that into account, and then you take a look at someone like Fields, who's been in a very similar situation as far as like the help around him has been very frustrating on behalf of them. So Chicago is not only 21st in scoring, but they're also 21st in points against. So they got something consistent.
Doesn't help at all.
Take a look at their injury report. Dude, their injury reserve is, unless if this is just wildly inaccurate, they almost have nobody injured. Now, obviously, Darnell Mooney's not going to be playing. He's out with a concussion. The only person that I see on their injury reserve, at least from Pro Football Reference, unless something else is a little bit more updated, but this was from the 27th, and I don't think they put a bunch of people in between that time. So the only person on their injury reserve for the Chicago is Ngakoue.
So we're facing another.
Everyone else that would have had like a limited thing in practice is Cole Kmet and Lucas Patrick, their guard. They're both questionable for a knee, so they're likely to play. Everyone else had full practices, from Deontay to Tevin Jenkins to Mercedes Lewis. Well, he didn't practice because of rest. And then Noah Sewell and then EQ, St. Brown. So it's like they're not missing anybody. So the help that they have is who they were pretty much set out to have the entire year. And then they traded for Montez Sweat just for kicks and giggles.
Just stole them from us, man. Got my hopes high and everything. Then you stole them from us. I'll never forgive them for that.
So let's take a look at the games in which Fields has been on the field, because he hasn't played the entire season, right? So the 6-9 record that they have is with him and Tyson Bagent.
And Tyson did win a game too, but also lost.
He was 2-2.
Yeah.
Because I remember they beat the Raiders 30-12 with him.
Barely lost to the Saints.
Yeah, it was a
24-7.
close loss there, and then they lost to the Chargers the very next week after they went to the Saints, and then they beat Carolina.
So we both.
And then those were the games in which Tyson Bagent were playing. So then when they came back, that's when Justin Fields was back for the Detroit game.
Got obliterated.
Well, it was 26-31.
The defense.
And then you had the awful slugfest that was Minnesota Vikings on the Thanksgiving game. That was that Monday night game. The 12-10.
Oh. Where Josh Dobbs and him combined for like 8 turnovers.
Yeah, it was not pretty.
Unless you're a defensive guy, and you enjoy games like that.
Or yeah, but you'd want to have those games against a good offense.
Yeah.
I feel good about it. And then they came back and then just destroyed Detroit. And then they had that game where they kicked away a Hail Mary against the elite Joe Flacco Browns, which you cannot tell me age is a factor anymore.
Yeah,
Dude, Joe Flacco has been on the couch for most of this season. Got signed in as the 4th emergency quarterback for Cleveland that has been doing this without Nick Chubb, without most of their offensive line, without some key members of their defense. Like Myles Garrett was hurt for a couple of days. They didn't even have their kicker and punter against the Texans at some point, and they did that game against the Jets without Amari Cooper either. Like Kevin Stefanski, give him Coach of the Year yesterday.
Even losing Nick Chubb was all of that, and then losing Kareem Hunt even made it worse.
Yeah, they've been rocking with Jerome Ford.
And he's actually been pretty decent. Just had a monster game against the Jets. 2 touchdowns. No, 1 touchdown. Had that long.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, it was 2. Oh yeah. Because the first drive or second drive when he was pulling a person into the end zone with him.
Yeah. And then the other one was just ridiculous from Flacco.
I'm still trying to figure out a man that's 39 years old, has been sitting on the couch for about 1.5 years now, has been a backup quarterback for about 3 years now, has 5 kids, got called up out of the blue, said, hey, you want to play for the Browns to push us to the playoffs? Well, now you're 4-1. You're 11-5. And you could potentially win the number 1 seed if the Ravens lose one of the next 2 games.
Yeah, well, the first scenario would have to be like you would have to lose to Miami. And then both of them the next game would have to lose, and then they'd have to win out. Blackheart, I'm sorry that autocorrect did that for you.
At least we know what you're talking about. At least we know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's kind of weird, man. Maybe Matt Ryan could do the same thing in a year. Come back, play for some team. You never know. Maybe now, tomorrow.
Not likely. Anyways, with Justin Fields, so as we were saying, he's been 4-7 with this team. He's completed 60.9% of his passes. Has just barely thrown for over 2,000 yards. Has 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Has a quarterback rating of 84.5. Has taken 36 sacks. And has one fourth quarter comeback game-winning drive. His adjusted net yards per attempt is almost a full docket lower than Russell Wilson at 5.07.
Oh. What's the rushing yards looking like?
The rushing yards, however, 105 carries or attempts, 585 yards, only 3 touchdowns. I thought he had more than
that. Last year he did when they were using him on a bunch of quarterback powers and all that.
So it's like 200 and something more than Russ, all things considered. As far as like the yards he's gotten.
What, the same amount of touchdowns, basically? I think. Yeah.
And I do remember in the game against Buffalo, Russell Wilson had a scrambling touchdown that was called back from something else. Fields might have had a similar situation to that at some point too in the season. But like they both could have had more than what this shows.
Fields also had some fumbles on a couple of
runs. If we're adding that in here too, Justin Fields has 9 fumbles on the season. I don't know if these are counting fumbles in total or lost fumbles. So I'm just going to assume that these are all fumbles and they've all lost them. In which Justin Fields, like I said, is 9. Russell Wilson is 10. So you tally that up. Fields has 18 turnovers. Russ has 18 turnovers. Justin Fields has 18 touchdowns. Russ has 29.
So pretty similar. Pretty similar. I kind of wonder what would Fields' stats be if he didn't miss those 4 games with that thumb injury, though.
Well, that's kind of where we get Tyson Bagent.
Yeah.
Because that's where his other almost 900 yards comes from there. Tyson Bagent actually had a higher completion percentage at almost 66%. Granted, these are kind of like smaller sample size numbers. So he had 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. He did have 100 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns as well under Bagent. And he did have 3 fumbles. So do with that what you will.
We'll see. I don't know, because it's like it doesn't really hurt Russ, but it's kind of saying like, okay, well, Russ' season is basically over with now. Of course, Justin Fields has 2 more games, maybe more, if the 0.07% chance of them making the playoffs happens, and it does happen, but we hope it's not, because that would mean we wouldn't make it.
Right. And that would involve beating us in the process.
Yeah.
Which I'm not the type of guy to root for ourselves to lose.
Yeah, no. I don't care if Jesus is the number 1 pick. Still don't want to lose. But yeah.
I'd just trade everything. Just go full Mike Ditka, Ricky Williams style.
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and 7th, and maybe a player
added on. Next year's first, next year's second.
And maybe we'll call in Kyle Pitts and Drake London.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of like, okay, well, one kind of feels like a rent type of player. I mean, you never know. He is only 35. We had a lot of quarterbacks in the last 6 years play till they were 40. We had one play till 45. Drew Brees played till 40. Matt played till 39. Aaron's still playing right now, so I guess he'll be playing when he's 40 next year. Big Ben, Phillip Rivers. So it is possible for him to be playing sooner if he were to come over here and do well.
And the difference that I see with most of those names and in him is that he's been the mobile one.
Yeah.
That is still stuck around out of all of them. And that really has to go with, like, he's been able to protect himself. Yeah, he's taken a lot of, like, sacks. He's taken a lot of hits on his body. And that at some point will slow him down during the season. But he's been up to this far, like not a problem as far as like him being on the field for a team. Like I don't think he's really missed that many games. So as far as that goes, now he's 11 years older than Justin Fields, so like there's that side of it, and then Justin would still be kind of on par with like he's about to be 25 soon. So that's still kind of on par with some of the rookies that you would have. Only this time, the thing with him is that extension that you were trying to ask me about earlier. It's like if he gets traded anywhere, because he doesn't have a trade clause because he's on a rookie contract, he's already getting 4 years, $18 million. That's what he was signed for when he was drafted there. If they were to ship him out in the 2024 offseason, the cap hit, therefore dead cap for Chicago would be $6 million. So not something you know, that's not going to hinder them for doing anything. They also had like a lot of cap space too. So this would be the contract year for him essentially. If he goes anywhere, if they decide to trade him, that would be his best opportunity to ask for that extension. Now we're saying this when it's like, what would he ask for? Because obviously, if we're going off of potential and stuff, like his number is going to be pretty high. But this isn't much of a potential league. It's more of a what have you done for me lately kind of league. And when teams look around and they'd be like, all right, well, here's the situation. If you don't fall in love with our circumstances, like in our weapons and our talent and stuff, then it's going to be hard for me to build around you with the contract that you'd want to ask for. Not saying it can't be done, but it's just much more of an inconvenient. Now, we wouldn't have that problem, and that's why it's so enticing. Because, you know, you wouldn't have to worry about your running back, your wide receiver one, your tight ends, your offensive line, because that's already built and that's already been built for the future. And then on top of that, we have a top 10 defense. So, and your special teams is locked up and they're doing pretty good. Like most of the team has already been built, and it's been built for a mobile quarterback, which is the other thing that's enticing. You want that mobile quarterback to grow with the team, and he's only 25 to do so. So like that checks that bill. As far as, you know, like his on-field talent, like it's clearly there in order for a team to mold, but it still needs development. We don't know what kind of problems that Chicago has done for him, you know, that like he was just a bystander for, or is he doing something that Chicago didn't want to do? So there's those questions that we need to ask. And then, of course, like on Russ' sides too, like where was the offensive rift in terms of like the play calling decisions and like the execution? Was it mostly from Russ, and was it mostly from Sean Payton? But he's got too much power to give up in comparison to Russ. So there's that hurdle too. Like there's a lot of questions. And then the man in the middle of the screen, very peeking out. I didn't do this on purpose, but it just so happens to be Arthur Smith. This whole question, this whole thumbnail was who's here in 2024. That still needs to be figured out on our side as well. And not just that, but like the general play caller, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, etc. If we were to make any kind of move, we'd have to do those things first. Right? And will those moves point at a direction for one or the other? That's what I'm like really curious about. Another thing that Michael will point out, because if you decide to trade for Fields, there's things that you have to give up as a team. And you're not in the driver's seat as far as how the negotiations will go. The only thing that which you would have to go in thinking about is like you'd have to convince Chicago that there is a college quarterback that's better than what Fields would be for you next year. If you can get them to fall in love with the prospect, and that gives them the idea to let him go and then start somewhere else. Only problem is we're dealing with Chicago.
You know how they are. Now, have they gotten fleeced before? Yes, they have. They literally traded a first round pick for Chase Claypool.
Mitch Trubisky.
And Mr. Risky. Feels like TJ Watt and cornerback they just chose. I don't know why I keep
The
forgetting.
only quarterback that technically hasn't fleeced him is Jay Cutler somehow.
Yeah. All right. So 3 things here. One, we do have to remember trading for Fields kind of puts us in a dilemma. One, because Kyle Pitts is on his 5th-year option as well, because they both came out of the same draft class.
Right.
So you have to take that in order, because you can't not Fred, I say you can't pick up 2 players' 5th-year options. It's the same thing we had to do with Jeff Okudah and AJ Terrell this year. We had to decline his so we could pick up AJ's. So you can't pick up 2 guys 5th-year options.
You would just then have to franchise tag one of them.
Yeah.
And if that's the dilemma, you would kind of hope for Pitts. Because that would be the maximum contract that a tight end would be making at that year.
And right now they're making, I think the franchise set for tight ends is like $14 million, I think, if I
14,
believe.
15, that seems about right.
Yeah, 14, 15 million. Quarterbacks is a whole different story. Quarterbacks are paying about $30, $40 million just to have them for 1 year or so. If they do that, I would expect them to pick up Justin Fields' 5th-year option, have $19 million more dollars in the margin that you wouldn't have to franchise tag with, and then use that on Kyle Pitts or whatever else you want to use it on the free agency, because we have $40 million available in cap space next year. So that's 1. 2, okay, so we also kind of have to remember right now Arthur Smith is still fighting for his job. So like you said, we still have to figure who's going to be here offensive wise, really coaching staff wise, but especially head coach and offensive coordinator wise next year. Now maybe, I don't know. Now maybe the Colts win was enough for Arthur Blank to say, okay, maybe give him a decent, competent quarterback with no turnovers, and maybe he can blow teams out like that. Now we've said that a lot this year. I mean, Desmond Ridder, let's be honest, we all love him, but the man's turned the ball over 17 times this year. He has more turnovers than he has total touchdowns. So
now, I'm just gonna mention real quick, because we're saying that number, and yes, we understand that it's really high when you compare it to the touchdowns that he's provided for us. However, 17 interceptions or 17 total turnovers. Is that like interceptions or is that total turnovers? I just want to make that clear.
That's total. Yeah, that's total turnovers.
Okay, so in total turnovers, that's 17. We just said that both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are at 18. And Justin has played less games.
They have? Oh, yeah, because Desmond was only benched for 2 games. No, 3 games. My fault. 3 games. So, yeah, kind of.
It was still kind of there half the game in Tennessee, and then finished off the 4th quarter for Arizona.
So, 2 games, if you want to count.
It was obviously this game, but that's not
really
winning a whole lot. And then the Minnesota game.
So yeah, that kind of helps too. Now, of course, like we said, coaches cannot control turnovers unless the play call kind of put that into it. Now, of course, there's out of 17 turnovers, I can probably say 5 were like, okay, what was he supposed to do at this point? Play calling wise, the other 12 were kind of like blatantly on him.
Heck, even the successful plays, we were like, dude, what was that? Like, I'm glad it worked out, but like,
what was he supposed to do there?
Or if there was no backup option to the first read, like that also would have been really bad on film for a coaching standpoint, not just a player execution.
Drake London or no one. There you go. Throw the fade or don't throw it to anyone at all. But yeah, so that's 2. 3, we also have to remember Now, of course, we kind of don't want to just draft players or sign players because you like the person that they are. There's a lot of good people in the NFL, people, not players, but people in the NFL that are terrible players or bench warmers or reserves. So,
And there's kind of the other side of the coin there, where there's going to be people that you don't like that are also really good too.
yeah, S. Deshaun Watson and some other people that we,
Cam Jordan.
yeah, Cam Jordan that we won't speak about. But yeah. So it has been reported that Arthur Blank likes Russell Wilson as a person, and they've kind of communicated over the years and have a relationship. Justin Fields is also has a relationship with Arthur Blank from his high school days and him just being around the team. So he knows both of them. So that's also something we would have to remember. Oh, and four, um, if Terry and Arthur Smith do get kept, or mostly Arthur Smith, because I don't really think he would fire Terry after
Yeah,
everything.
Terry did nothing wrong here.
Yeah, no. Other than
If anything, he's doing a lot of things right.
other than a couple of iffy picks, he's hit on all his signings. Basically, hit on 80% of his draft picks. I mean, it's nothing else he can really do that would not solidify his case. But if Arthur Smith gets kept, he and Terry Fontenot have to go into Arthur Blank's office and sell whatever quarterback dream they have to Arthur Blank for them to either have the time to develop him or to be able to get kept so they see what happens with that. Because if you say, okay, I want Justin Fields, where he's going to say, okay, you go get Justin, but you got a year. You both got a year. That's basically that's you and Justin year. That's it. Or if you say you want to go Russell, it's kind of like, okay, Art, that's your year, but it's still kind of Russell Wilson's year in a kind of short term because he is 35 years old. Or if you go the rookie route, which is it's like 50,
Ignoring both of these options.
yeah, but ignore both of these two options. It's basically just Arthur Smith year because you can't kick a rookie after 1 year. Like that's that. We've seen too many quarterbacks in the last couple of years have a bad rookie or iffy rookie year and then come out and explode, or have a good rookie year and now you just got to have them. Esque, C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert. What's another rookie quarterback that went off? Will Levis. I guess we can put Will Levis in there for right now.
First game, but after that, no.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, Justin Herbert and C.J. Stroud. But yeah,
I just want to call this year Jordan Love's rookie year, which is kind of unfair, but
yeah, no. He started a couple of games before here, so I can't really do that. But yeah, that would basically be Arthur Smith's year, not the rookie's year, but Arthur Smith's year. So I don't know if he would want to put his trust in the rookie, which is why I'm kind of like the more I look at it and the more I think about it, these like I only want one of these guys to be the quarterback if they were to get traded for or signed. But to be honest, it's three guys that I pray that doesn't two guys I pray that doesn't happen, but it's three guys that I'm thinking about that could happen. One is Justin Fields, of course, one is Russell Wilson, one is Ryan Tannehill. The reason I say all three of those guys is because they're all veterans. They all have had some type of success in the NFL, whether it was short term, long term, intermediate, whatever it was, they had some type of success. So if he does want to hitch his wagon, basically his head coaching career to a quarterback, it would most likely be a veteran because the chances of not really. I would say the chance of a quarterback being like CJ Stroud is low, but like next year is kind of a pretty good quarterback class. All top five quarterbacks could legitimately be going in the first 15 to 20 picks. So it's not that bad of a draft class, but the chances of a rookie coming in and lighting it up like CJ Stroud has this year, having MVP cases and getting his team near the playoffs and all of that is kind of like, it's slim to none. It doesn't happen a lot. So if he does
now,
want to do that, it'd probably be a veteran.
now, what I was also saying is that when we were, we're doing our reviews of like who we have on the roster in order to look at this team situation from the player standpoint, right? This is a win now roster. And they've tried to advertise this ever since the Bijan pick. Like, you don't take a running back like that unless you have the luxury of doing so because you trust yourself as the coach to just get this team over the step. Now, we say that, and here we are. So I still think the roster is a win now mode, and you cannot let this kind of defense and this kind of offensive weapon circumstance pass you up at this time. If you were to take a veteran or an unproven veteran as of lately, not a fully proven guy, right? Like, in terms, like, when you compare Russell Wilson to Justin Fields look unproven, right? Even when you compare him to Ryan Tannehill. And Ryan Tannehill is as cooked as last year's Thanksgiving turkey. Like, there's almost nothing left. There's nothing on that bone. It is gone. So I don't think that Arthur, if this is his last year, if he's really treating this next year as his last year here as like a make it or break it deal, he is not hitching his wagon on the previous quarterback, because that is even less than Mariota. like he got replaced twice with two quarterbacks. Like, barely anybody has had to go through that mentally. So that's off the board. I just can't trust him, especially for any kind of deal that he would have. I haven't even cared to look at his contract stuff and the things that he's put on tape. Not good. And then plus, like, I want to say he's injured, isn't he? Or didn't he get hurt?
Who? Ryan Tannehill?
Yeah.
Okay, so
wasn't that the whole reason as to why Levis was there?
Okay, yeah. So the Ravens game, he got hurt, had a high ankle sprain. They held him out the rest of the game. They started Levis. They went into the bye week. He was practicing a little bit, but he was limited. Came back that week. He could have played. He could have started against us, but they started Levis and they started Malik and they sat him. And then the very next week he was cleared, and they were like, "Okay, you know what? We're just gonna stick with the young gun." And he's been riding the bench since the week after they played us.
So take these performances with Will Levis with a grain of salt, because even like as bad as he's been, like, they've never once considered to go back to Tannehill, which kind of says something there.
Now, maybe it's that
I think their season is done, and they kind of realize that because they can't like
make the playoffs,
or
did make
they
it.
could still spoil a team here and there.
Yeah, of course. I don't know who their next two games are, but they could be against somebody who has a purpose.
Well, one of them is going to be a division game regardless. The last game in the season.
I think they're playing. Are they playing the Colts?
Let
me check. Hold on. I'll check real quick.
Tomorrow they're against the Texans.
Okay, yeah. So
the last game is against Jacksonville.
Oh yeah, so they could spoil basically two division rivals. They have the chance to,
especially Jacksonville. Well, I mean both of them actually, because I don't know why, but
them, the Colts, and the Jaguars
they're all falling apart at the same time with the same record.
All tied for first place, and all have beaten each other too.
All feel like they're sharing the second brain cell or something.
Wait, hold up. So let me get this straight. Okay, so Texans beat the Jaguars first. Jaguars beat them the second time. Texans lost to the Colts first. They played the Colts again the last week, I think. They beat the Titans last time. The Texans, they beat the Titans last time.
This is like a game of rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is either the Texans, the Colts, or the Jaguars have to either win out, or they have to win one game and hope that the last two teams lose both of the last two games they have.
I think Jacksonville, out of all those teams, still have
the best
control over their own destiny, but they've been on a horrible losing streak.
And they getting blown out by Jacksonville doesn't help either.
Like, they have Carolina this game, but they don't have Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see what Carolina looks like against them.
They did just drop 30 on the Packers.
Joe Barry.
Yeah.
Oh, the Packers too, I guess.
But yeah, that is kind of iffy. But I think they view Will Levis as their franchise quarterback, kind of. I don't know if that's how they went into it this entire time. They're like, okay, we're going to see what we have in Ryan Tannehill. He doesn't work. We're going to go to Levis. That does work. We're going to go to Willis. That doesn't work. I guess we're just screwed. But you know, I guess you could say that. But
The sooner you learn, the sooner you can move forward.
true. I mean, they have talent on that team. Let's not get it wrong. Like they have talent. It's just they just have to put in.
Well, this might be Henry's last year. Hopkins is probably not going to be there long term. Like you have a other like young players and rookies and stuff that I felt really good about, and I haven't seen them work as well as they were projected to. Like Chigi Okonkwo, Kyle Phillips is over there. They had their other running back behind Henry. Like there was someone else that I liked, Traylon Burks. Like remember him? Like
Yeah, he had a good
it's
game against.
just
Well, no, he had that touchdown catch against us. Other than that, he didn't really do anything. Let me not lie.
no, that wasn't even him. That was 3 touchdowns to Hopkins and then 1 to Westbrook Akine.
Oh, never mind. So he didn't. He didn't catch anything. Never mind. But yeah,
So, and then the
they got
offensive
young players
line
on
is going to
defense.
get less and less.
They got a lot of young players on defense. I'll say that.
That's true.
It's the offense that's kind of oldish, or their picks aren't coming together.
It's just a lot of wonky things are happening at really awful times for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, Tannehill's off the board. I don't want to talk about the Titans anymore.
Well,
So
basically,
back to Arthur Smith though, because that was the whole point of why we're talking about Tennessee. If he's got to have his wagon hitched onto someone else, and it's got to be a quarterback, and it's got to be someone that he can win with. The only thing I'd say is like if he decides to go with Justin Fields, that's kind of the path of most resistance here because you'd have to do more in order to get him, and you'd have to do more to satisfy him. Whereas with Russell Wilson, you can literally just pick him up. That is the path of least resistance here. But there comes with like the control and what he would ask for as an offense too, because, you know, as we said with the Pete Carroll dispute, it's like he wants some say in what's going on. And if we go into this conversation, and I think Terry can do it as, you know, the negotiator and contract dealer that he's been, Florida State, I don't know what the heck is going on. Anyways, with the kind of quarterback that he's been, the kind of reputation that he's had, the kind of offense that he's run, they still fit here. But like I said, we have to take care of our quarterback coach and see if there is a path where they can satisfy each other there. And if that's the case, Arthur can do that here with a guy like him that can, you know, that we've seen already to beat the better defense, to beat the better team, and give us that edge to make a playoff run. Because if we go to Justin, right, this is locking him up long term. And we'd have to like who we have right away. Because if we go with the route of Justin Fields, we can no longer go for someone like Russell Wilson again. We can no longer go for a rookie quarterback this year because we'd have to secure that Justin gets what he wants. And that's full security of the number 1 spot. Which means that if we go Justin's route, we'd have to trade for him. We'd have to pay for him. We'd have to sacrifice draft picks, maybe a player in the same style in which they got Justin Fields for, because remember, they traded from 20 to 11 to get the rights to draft him in the first place. And then you'd have to see where he is long-term as far as his performance on the field. Now, I think that he's a bit more coachable, but there's still some problems that he might have on his own that Russell Wilson just in his career won't have anymore. As far as like making those rookie mistakes, not to say that like Russell Wilson's been perfect with his decision-making, but he's got way too much experience to feel like that. So with Russ, however, he's going to go into any team thinking and like already under the assumption like, all right, I'm not going to be here long term, so I'm okay with a team building around me right now in preparation for the next quarterback, which means there is a very real scenario in which you can enter this offseason signing Russell Wilson and still drafting a rookie quarterback. That way you can have QB1 Russell Wilson in your win now roster to reward that top 10 defense that we have enough pieces in order to maintain for the next season. You have all your pieces in order to maintain him. You have all of your like receiving threats and offensive line to satisfy Russell Wilson's desires. Because if he goes somewhere like Washington, I can't trust that offensive line. If he goes somewhere like New England, I can't trust anybody else around me. Oakland, excuse me,
I mean,
Vegas, I don't see enough there, and they might go with Aiden O'Connell anyways. Plus, you got Jimmy's contract too. But and when Michael's saying 3 year, I don't even think 3 year. I think like 1 year, and like just prove it. If you have another year in you, then we'll sign you then. But you have to prove the next team. And we understand that he's had a pretty decent season, like we said. But the other team has to know that. Because it's not about the money. It's like what he can provide another team. And then from his standpoint, right? Like what we were just saying, he wants to go to a team that seems set and that seems built and that seems like it's just a quarterback away from really contending. And what better division to land in than the NFC South? Even if he goes to like the Commanders or to New England, they're still not going to be like the number one like choice there to win that division. Whereas like here, dude, even if he declines, we could still monopolize this thing. And then you could still have someone else behind him. Now, whether or not you can really like anybody else that would be behind him in this draft class, that's another thing. But you still don't even have to take that risk if you still want to have Ritter around just to kind of revive him.
Now, see, that's also what you got to remember too. Okay, so that's kind of what you have to do right now, like what you're evaluating over the next 2 weeks. What do you do with Taylor? What do you do with Ritter? Of course, Ritter's going to be the cheaper backup because he's on the 3rd round deal, but you also have to remember that Taylor overall is kind of like who do you want more as the backup quarterback? Unless you're going to make Ritter QB3. Because you can't do that.
I think you would have to.
Yeah, you can't do that.
At least Heineken can still find a roster spot somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying this on behalf of Ritter. Like, I think that the only person that can fix him is the person that kind of broke him.
The thing is, I don't really think you can take Woodside over Ritter at that point.
No. So, like, both Heineke, because of the salary cap and stuff, just to kind of save that extra little bit if we wanted to hand it over to either team, right? Either player. Like, you still have to establish that because it wouldn't make any sense even from a depth chart standpoint, like why your 3rd string quarterback would be making more than your starter, at least on your own books. Because I understand financially, like we said, Denver would be taking care of a lot of money no matter what happens, no matter what team he goes to. Probably even if he ends up on no team. Like, so I would still keep Ritter because he's the cheapest option. He's the youngest option. He's the most coachable one, and he still has enough traits to build around as far as like his athletic ability that you can work with if you were in that break glass in case of emergency situation.
Also
because at least the rest of the team knows him for a lot longer.
It's because it's like you also have to remember he adds a little bit to the run game too. Like you can kind of tell
that's something that Taylor can't really do.
Yeah, like the read option isn't Taylor Heineke.
I mean, he said that he's never been one to move around, but it's more of like a pocket presence situation and not more of like a scrambling threat for a defender to on the sidelines to really consider.
Like we're not going to come up with a double option or triple option pitch for Taylor Heineke with Bijan and Tyler Algier. You know, like that's kind of like a Desmond Ridder type thing or a Justin Fields type thing.
All right, so Red Swarm, he says that I don't think that a trade for Fields would require as much as you think. I think it would be a Sam Darnold type of trade, a 2nd this year, 4th and 5th, and a 2nd next year. What do you have to say about the trade?
Like,
do you think Chicago would accept that deal?
A second this year, a fourth, and a fifth. Okay, so I was seeing something like this on Chat Sports, and the guy that was on there, he made um, a trade little thing, and he basically said we give up a second this year and a second next year for Fields. Me, I'm kind of iffy on that, and
Dude,
the
that is
reason,
like 2 Chase Claypools.
yeah. Now, not saying I'm not opposed to giving up picks, because either way, you're going to have to give up something. You're going to have to give up a couple $100 million to Russell to sign, or you're going to have to give up some draft picks. So either way, you're going to be losing something. You're not going to give the one of these
Wait,
guys free.
how would you give up 100 million for Russell?
Okay, maybe 75 million, maybe 70. Little
How
Jimmy,
even that much? Where's that number coming from?
Jimmy G's contract, kind of how everyone, like how the quarterbacks got signed this year. Vets. Jimmy G got 75 mil. A-Rod got 3 years, 121 mil. Who else got signed this year? Gino
Those are different circumstances though, because what did Indy have to pay Matt when we traded him away and in order to eat up the cap space?
like 30
Like
something.
that's the kind of thing that you're looking at. Like what did they have to do in order to let go of Carson Wentz, for example?
Oh no, that the dead cap was like 35 million, I think.
So that's the situation. And then what did Carson ask for in Washington? Because that's more of the number that you're looking at. Not that he's getting a brand new deal, because he's already got the benefits of a big deal. There's no way he's asking for 75 million, let alone 100 plus.
You're kind of right about that.
So if we just take a look at Carson Wentz, for example, because he's in the almost same situation, right? What happened to him? Transactions. Okay, so back in 2021, he was traded to Indy from Philly, right? So that was the first one for a 2022 first rounder, 2022 or conditional, becomes a 2022 first round pick if Wentz plays 75% of the snaps or 70% and the Colts make the playoffs. Number 16 traded, and then the 2021 third round pick, which would be pick 84, and that was traded away. And in the very next year, Indy traded him to Washington with the 2022 second round pick, that which ended up becoming Fedarian Mathis, 2022 seventh round pick, which ended up becoming Christian Holmes, 2022 second round pick that was then traded, 2022 third round pick that would ended up becoming Jelani Woods, and in 2023 third round pick, which ended up becoming Josh Downs. Then he was released earlier this year by Washington, clearing up $26.1 million of their cap. So it seems like it was at least 26 for the 1 year deal. And that was with a quarterback that was 30 years old. I think Red Storm is starting to get it here. We can actually sign Russ for the vet minimum if he agrees to it. Because the most important thing is that he needs to get out of Denver.
True. Really, both the quarterbacks we talking about need to get out from everywhere they're from.
Chicago, right, but we can only be the answer for one of them. We can't be the answer for both, because then we wouldn't know who has the steering wheel.
Yeah. Now it looks like Russ is in like a more kind of terrible situation, because the entire front office management doesn't even seem like they want him on the team anymore. Because that kind of was like a low blow. It's either, okay, you either take less money or you get benched. Now I could see if it was like, okay, we're gonna take this money and go sign someone else, but it's like it doesn't really look like they were gonna do that. I mean, okay, the 39 million, of course, yes, is kind of an overpay for Russ at this point of his career from the standpoint in the games that they lost and won. Like 40 million is kind of like a lot, but
Right. And that was, like I said, 40 million with whatever else Denver could build around him.
yeah,
Like
but
they were trying to take him to the playoffs, or they brought him to kind of carry them to the playoffs despite themselves. And the year before, obviously, they still had a great defense, which made sense because they kind of knew that. Here, it hasn't really been the case for them. So the fact that he's having a good year now, like, really hurts them. Like,
it's kind of what are y'all doing it for? You know, like what's the point of doing it? Because I
it's not
don't
about
really
the
see a
money. It's
point.
about sending a message
What's the message though? Because it's okay,
that Sean Payton overtakes all.
let's say another player is in that situation. I mean, like who's gonna want to sign to the team though? Like with that coming out, because it's like, okay, if my contract is kind of the contract that y'all gave me, no, I didn't ask for. I mean, I kind of did ask for it, but that y'all gave me, now you want me to
His
restructure
agent probably
it
would have done that,
now, but now
because
you
he
want
was like, well, dude, come on, man. Like, my history has shown that I'm not too far off from Aaron Rodgers. And he
it's
was like,
almost.
all right, well, that transaction happened first, so we'll just give you the next best thing.
I mean, y'all, they wanted him first in the first place. It's not like he was like, okay. I mean, he was one of the teams on their list, but it's not like he chose. He was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go to Denver, like Denver, Colorado. We're number 3, Broncos jersey. Nathaniel Hackett's my head coach. Like he didn't choose that. They traded for him. They gave the house for him. Now you give him a big, huge contract that you knew that was kind of a overpay when you gave it to him, and now you're mad at the bed that you made. That doesn't really make
Right.
sense.
And it was because of Sean Payton, the
And
guy that they also had to trade for.
and it's not like he's been calling like fantastic games either. Like from what I've heard, Broncos fans have been talking about like the play calling has been like iffy. Like it's not all on him.
Let's
Like
just say that another thing that we can compare to is like how smart Russell Wilson has been pre-snap in order to make adjustments. Whereas if kind of too coachable of a quarterback right now in your early stage, and like you're kind of aware that your coach isn't making good calls, and yet you have to execute them anyways, that doesn't look good on either of you. Whereas with Russ, I know that he's kind of saved them sometimes from Sean Payton, because that's one of the things I've seen about like, oh, like we heard the change that Russell Wilson made before the play, and it was a successful play. I haven't seen enough from Justin to do that. Not saying that he hasn't, not saying that he can't, but like, whose brain would you trust more if your coaching job was on the line? That's kind of what it is. In Red Swamp, I did talk about this. Like, no quarterback's gonna be perfect with the situation, but like as far as like who gives you the highest floor, I'm not concerned too much about the highest ceiling right now. I want the highest floor because we want to have a win now mode. Most of this roster outside of the quarterback position has told me that we're in win now mode. And when you give me a quarterback on which you're trying to build for the future, that seems win later. That doesn't seem win now. Because that's too much expectations for a rookie quarterback or for a young quarterback like Justin Fields to just like go in and then win everything right there. I'm not saying it can happen, but like, what's the likelihood here in comparison with Ritter or Russ, who's less risk in order to have in the first place? Who's short term. So even if he doesn't pan out, or even if he does an Aaron Rodgers and like plays 4 snaps for you and then gets hurt the rest of the season, I'm still setting up a proposal in which you would have a backup quarterback that's a rookie or Desmond Ritter behind him anyways. So you'd still be actually getting more depth with the idea to go to Russ as long as you execute the plan to get a quarterback, whether that be like someone like Jaden Daniels if you decide to trade up, because let's face it, we don't have a ton of holes to fill anymore that a rookie in some other position would solve in comparison to how much money we'd also have in free agency. So like we can take care of a couple of things there. We have enough money now to uh, give an extension and like keep guys like AJ Terrell in order to like we already took care of Chris Lindstrom the other year. I don't know how much we would have to have in order for Grady Jarrett and then Jake Matthews. That's still something you have to keep account of. Jesse Bates is still here, so like that's already taken care of. Onyemata is going to be here. Caden Ellis is going to be here. So it's like the core nucleus of the defense that makes it so good of what it is either already paid or too young to worry about paying them right now. The rest of the offense is in the similar situation. Like they're mostly on rookie deals. So they're too young to pay them right now. And some of the ones that are, they've already been paid. So with having multiple draft picks again, like now you're just being real just flexing. Like you're just flexing on everyone else at that point. Now you could still do that with Justin Fields, but if you take some of those draft picks away, whether it be like 3 of them, 4 of them, now you have 3 left, and now you have to hit them on all of them, which means like in my scenario, if I'm Terry, like I want so that there's a situation where I can get Russell Wilson, and if I want to have other veterans at other positions, like a Daniel Hunter, like a T. Higgins, I now have the money for that, and then to keep everyone in house. And now I have all of my draft picks to use for this upcoming season too, just in case for any one of those situations as well. With Justin, I'm kind of afraid that you're locking him in at quarterback 1, which means you can't pursue another quarterback. And you probably won't have a first-round pick. If you do, surprisingly, then you can't go quarterback. You'd probably have to go like pass rusher or something like that. And then that'll have its own question marks there too, as far as like the performance. I trust Ron Nielsen to take care of any defender that we have. I don't know about Arthur Smith or the next coach that we decide to bring in. So, how do you feel about that, Trey?
So I just seen a scenario on Twitter, and it was basically saying, okay, the Broncos cut Russell Wilson. We give him a vet minimum deal. We sign whoever we want. Still have our 4 draft picks in the first 3 rounds, and basically have the most complete roster we've had since maybe 2012, I guess. I mean that sounds good.
And then even then, like that was the year in which the very next year after that, it all fell apart because that was our win now year.
Yeah. So it's kind of okay. So there's good and bad to both of these things and both of these quarterbacks. So
of course,
I'm not going to be biased. I'm just going to name the most important 3 good things.
I'm glad that you're not, because like the first thing that which like when this was discussed, the very first conversation when this was discussed in the Discord was like, no, because Future wouldn't want him. And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah. Now, see, hey, look, guys, look. Now, part of me did say that because I'm a big Future fan. I kind of grew up on Future since I was like 5, 6. So I'm like, him, Russ, Atlanta, But, hey, Future has nothing to do with my Falcons and them winning championships. And
he's not a bag that would have had that they've would have filled in the last couple of off seasons. Try to bring in here has some sort of
no. All right, there's the lag. It's gone now. We should be good. Okay.
Okay, I didn't see it this time.
Yeah. It was
kind of scary. Anyways,
technology doesn't like us. But yeah, okay. So we're gonna name the 3 best things about Russ, 3 best things about Fields, and then we're gonna let the chat see which one they want more. Okay, so 1, vet experience, limits turnovers, great in the passing game. Will give us a big boost to the passing game, and I'm talking about London, Pitts, and Bijan. And he's very famous for feeding his tight ends. He loved Jimmy Graham. He loved Noah Fant. I mean, not Noah Fant. Who was the tight end down there? I keep forgetting his name. He has like a African type of name. It's like one of the long
Oh,
last.
Albert.
Yeah, Albert. We're just gonna call him Albert O. Albert O. He feeds Albert O a lot, and he's also
We
still
have Adam
pretty.
Troutman too.
He's also still pretty mobile. You know, you would think 35 years old, you've been running for 10, 12 years, you know, it kind of slow down. He can still get out the pocket, do a couple read options when he needs to. So we have that. Three good things about Fields. You're young, so if you end up hitting on it, you got your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. Two, still has a lot of potential, but like you said, Noah, it's not about these days, it's not about potential, it's about what you've done for me in the last couple of weeks, seasons, or months, however you want to
Because I've
categorize
been
it.
drilled for saying that Ritter still has youth
Potential.
and potential, and then no one's cared about that.
Yeah. So
So, like, it's going to be hard to rewire my brain into thinking that that suddenly matters for other quarterbacks
yeah,
if it
that's
hasn't worked for ours.
you basically be saying you only care about that one person or that one quarterback because that's who you want, not about who you think is better or who you think will be best.
Yeah. So I'm
And
like,
I'm not going to do like that.
that's
But Ritter still does have potential though. Even after all of this, so the kid still does have potential. He has what
as
it
long as
takes.
he's in the league. Yeah.
Yeah, he just has to put it together. He really just has to put it together, get his confidence back. But in number three, Justin Fields, good passer, rocket of an arm, accuracy. Now, we've been saying this since he was coming into the draft that he had great downfield accuracy. It's just when he throws it into double coverage trying to show off the rocket arm. That's what kind of irritates me a little bit. Because it's like
Yeah.
he had an
See,
interception last week against Arizona where he had a wide open tight end looking to his left and he threw it into double coverage and threw a pick. Trying to hit
and that
DJ.
was after having such a good drive. Like, he had a
Yeah,
really nice run, too, only for it to not matter.
that was a terrible
I'm
read. I'm
like,
not gonna lie to you.
that's really unfortunate, but that's kind of been most of his career.
That
Like,
kind
he's
of,
going to do some great things in between the 20s.
and who
But
does that
then
sound
sounds like exactly where we are now,
because Desmond
which
Ritter, man,
that's
he has
not
been
enough in order for me to feel good about,
a quarterback because
taking
we
that
got the
youth,
same
taking that
thing.
potential, and then going further than where we've been now.
Because we basically have the same thing in Desmond right now. He's only been in the league 1 year less than Justin Fields. Well, 2 years less.
And still,
It's
he's
it's
not
like
that
because
far off in terms of their win total either.
he has more wins actually.
Well,
It's
he's
way
got four
more.
here, 5 in his previous year. I'm
No.
trying to.
Justin Fields
I,
this year is the highest amount of games he's won. He won 3 games last year, 2 his first year.
Yeah, because one of them was like Andy Dalton won a game for them. I'm trying to see his win total here.
He won 2 games his first year, then he got benched. Then he won 3 games, then he got hurt. Then this year he started off like 0
Yeah, his
2.
career he is 9-27
Yeah. While
in terms of the games that he started.
Desmond is 6 and
Well, he won 2 games before, so his career Desmond Ritter is 8-8.
oh yeah, because Taylor Heineke's only won 1 game this year, so 8 and 8 yeah. So one game behind, and he's gotten benched twice. Was benched for 90% of the year last year, and yeah, has had a rough
similar
start.
amount of turnovers.
Yeah, similar amount of turnover. Maybe one less turnover than him too, because he has 18 total turnovers, Justin Fields. But yeah, those are the 3 best things that you have to offer for both those quarterbacks. Now, of course, you're hoping if you want the franchise quarterback for the long term, you're going Justin. If you want to just go for the automatic, you just need to get to the playoffs next year. You're probably leaning more towards Russell Wilson. But that's not saying Justin Fields can't get you there. It's just saying Russell Wilson is more probable to get you there because he's done it before.
Or to get you further.
Yeah, he's been in one.
Because the goal isn't to just get you there.
If
that was it, then dude, we could have stayed with Heineke, and we can technically get there now. But like, what is that going to do for us?
Nothing really.
Exactly. So I don't want to just get there. I want to look like a
A
competitive team with
dominant
this team
team.
because I
Yeah,
want to reward them.
especially the defense. There's no way this defense is played
And
so
it's
good.
really tough to
Missed
like
the tiebreakers.
look at a Calais Campbell, look at a Cordero Patterson again, and like look
But
at all these long term vets. Look at a Grady Jarrett, Jake Matthews, and
maybe
look at a
not.
Younghoe Koo who's not been in the playoffs. Look at a AJ Terrell who's not been in the playoffs. Like, and it'd be like, all right, congratulations, you've waited all this time. We've now given you Justin Fields. How do you feel? And I'm like, okay, I feel about as confident as I would have beforehand. I feel as confident as about I would have with just another rookie quarterback. And you paid how much? And we gave up how many picks? And he's here for how long?
1 year.
And who's behind him?
Desmond Ritter.
Whereas, again, there's a little bit more steps in order for the Russ proposal. At least the one that makes sense, because I don't think that if you decide to sign him, that you can just stick with him and just let that be that. You don't even have to, like pick where you are, because I think we're like 10th right now in terms of the draft pick. And there's other quarterbacks that are going to fall a little bit afterwards, like probably Michael Penix. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, but then again, you never know because look what happened with Trayvon Walker. Anyways, like we'll have to see where the hype is for there, because a lot's going to have to move in March. And that's probably what we're going to have like a part 2 to this discussion, because that's when we can really see the movement as far as like Justin Fields progression. And then we can see the rest of the league situation for Russell Wilson, because that's what's also needed. Like there's also a situation in which Russ like leaves and then Denver trades for Justin Fields, and then Russ goes to Chicago.
And he just pops off.
Like, because at the end of the day, Denver's going to be one of those teams that are going to be looking for a quarterback now. So we'd have to include that in our mock drafts for the mock trades. Like, it's not just going to be Washington. It's not just going to be New England. It's not just going to be us. Like, they're doing this for a reason, because Denver also wants to enter the fold. And we get that there's like 4 or 5 quarterbacks that might be worth it for some teams. Not every quarterback will fit every team. So that's the other puzzle piece. And that's for the future. So if you want to think about building for the future, that would be the way to do it. And that would be the way to establish that. Because Commanders are not trying to win now. New England's not trying to win now. Denver can't win now. We can.
I think we're the only team in the top 10 that can legitimately be 10-4.
They can go from like a worst to first kind of situation. Yeah.
Only team. And I legitimately like believe that. Like Tennessee is not there yet. They're not a more talented team. Even though they beat us, they're not a more talented team.
Like maybe the Jets or the Giants, but then like they've already spent money on Aaron Rodgers. They've already extended Daniel Jones over there for the Giants.
Only team that can really compete
like,
with us as far as like worst to first would be the Jets, because the Jets have the most. They have a complete defense. They have a couple weapons on offense. They just need another wide receiver and to shore up the whole line, and they could really go somewhere with Aaron Rodgers.
So we have the opportunity to be the most aggressive team.
We could really have another luxury pick next year, whoever we get, because you don't have to. I mean, the defense is already shored up, and we can use another pass rusher since Calais Campbell and Bud Dupree are most likely not going to be here next year. So that's probably where you go. But you either go wide receiver 2, get a high end wide receiver 2, or you go get a high end defensive end, and you go from there. Because the secondary shored up. You got Helms, you got Bates, you got Clark Phillips, D. Alford, Mike Hughes, surprisingly, AJ Terrell. Your secondary shored up. Your linebackers, I'm pretty sure you won't be needing linebackers when you have Troy Anderson, Nate Lemon, and Kaden Ellis all on the team next year. In D-line, Grady's coming back. You still got David Onyemata, AK starting to emerge.
And what if Calais stays for another year? Because it's like, dude, if he thinks that this year's special, oh my god, dude, I'd want to stay.
Especially with better quarterback play.
With the coordinator he's got?
Yeah.
Dude.
I wouldn't be opposed to it. And it's not like next year.
Just be there for the ride. Just be there for the experience, man. If we decide to get another edge rusher too, like second round pick, because thanks to Ripcliffe, do you guys know that Caden Ellis has a younger brother?
He does.
That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, Jonah Ellis, defensive end out of Utah, and I don't want anything good to be said about him because that might risk his draft stock rising tremendously. Because, yeah, let's just say that like he's not pinned as a second round prospect. He's like a third round prospect, but he's got like top 5 talent. But let's not like tell everybody about that, please, because if we keep his name under wraps, and if he's another team that was like, we have the luxury of staying where we are at 10, because you never know what's going to happen there, and then we can trade up in the second round or like wherever we think that Jonah Ellis is going to fall to, and then we can just have that with him as well. And then I don't care who you choose after that. Maybe another wide receiver, and then you're set. You're set for not only this year, but the next year. And it's like, this makes so much sense.
Defensive end, 20 years old.
Oh, dude, the way that Ripcliffe talked about him, like he's going to want to start a stream, and I'm going to have to invite him on. And I almost guarantee you 45 minutes of that stream is going to be dedicated to talking about him. And we have his brother. Terry Fontenot knows his family. His family knows Terry.
That's kind of how we got Drew Dahlman, too.
Right. Come on now. If we just keep his name under X and just let him be a hometown, or not hometown, but like, let him stay with his family. Oh, my goodness. That'd be like a Quincy and Quinnen Williams situation over with the Jets, but like better.
Because I was gonna say the same thing about AJ Terrell brother, because he's been going off, but it's like the way he's playing right now, by the time he's like a sophomore or junior, dude's gonna be like a top 10 pick. And the way we're playing right now, the way the roster's looking right now, I'm not even sure we'll be picking in the top 20 by the time he's going into the draft. So
I hope at the end of the next year we're picking 32nd.
Yeah. And he just surprisingly falls to 32,
And Red Storm, we already did, and that's why Helm's got all his snaps.
Oh, yeah. Have you noticed, like we said last week with the benching, Helms and Richie Grant and Akuda both combined for 13 snaps, which is equivalent to like 9% of the snaps on Sunday against the Colts. Wow, of course, Clark Phillips.
And we had no problem defending the pass.
Mm-hmm. Other than that first drive. Other than that.
Which, after that, like the rest of the 55 minutes, that was like 3 points, and that's all they could do.
I only got past the 50 twice just to get pushed back twice. Well, no, 3 times they got pushed back twice out of field goal range. So, yeah, we see how that's been going. Helms and Clark. Man, this draft class has been so just, man, like from Bijan to Helms. I mean, Javon Gwynn's probably the only one I actually forgot about.
Even down to the emergency signings of like our defensive linemen. Like Terry's still helping us out.
Charles London.
Dude, no. Storm Norton. Like
almost been playing better than Caleb this entire year in just 3 games. Yeah,
like you know what? Like I don't care what it takes. I'm willing to let him go. Because if Storm Norton can keep up that consistency level, the 6'7" body that he is, good Lord. Another thing that I've seen is that because we talked about the problems with Justin Fields a little bit more than we've talked about with Russell Wilson, and don't forget Zach Harrison. Don't forget Taquan Graham. So, like, we have defensive line depth for days. But yeah, going back to like anything that can hinder us from Russ's side of things. Obviously, like one could be injury, and that's like something that we'd have to prepare for. No, for any quarterback, no matter what. Because if there's anything that this season taught me, have more than one quarterback, please.
26 backup quarterbacks have played this year,
I
guys.
feel like we've watched 75 quarterbacks play this season, and there's
Yeah,
still 2 weeks to go, and there's still playoffs.
all 32 starting quarterbacks has played. That started from week 1. We had 26 start, and then we had a couple of third stringers start because some more guys got injured. The entire Jets quarterback room has played a game. The
The entire Browns quarterback room has probably played a game.
Yep, Deshaun, the rookie Dorian
Dorian
Thompson,
Thompson Robinson.
yeah. Man, what a year!
And then like
Remember.
like Tyrod Taylor didn't necessarily start under Tommy DeVito, but like he also played. So like there's a couple other hidden things too. Like Malik Willis got a snap, but he wasn't really starting the rest of the game. So there's things like that.
Went back in.
And then there's like situations like Mason Rudolph and Jake Browning and like all these other things.
Been a crazy year, man. Surprisingly, we only got 4 more weeks of this. Got the 5 more Super Bowl week. No, 6 more Super Bowl.
Because the Pro Bowl week in between.
Divisional wild card in these last 2 weeks. I don't count the Pro Bowl. Well, actually, no, I might because 707 last year was pretty lit. It was pretty funny, pretty fun. So yeah, I might count Pro Bowl week. So 7 weeks, 7 more weeks of football before we go on a 6-month break.
Oh my god, yeah. He's trying to think about what about moving out to 1,000 outside linebacker. If you do that, and if he like figures it out, because he's still, one of the things it's like he's playing the linebacker position while still like trying to learn about it. So if you get him to like mentally click, and I think Ryan Nielsen is definitely the coach to do it, he just needs more time if he really wants to think about making that move. He's got the speed, he's got the potential strength, he would have the knowledge of like how to target and attack. He's got the defensive line room to learn about when it comes to like shutting off of blocks and stuff. Dude, you're almost looking at a white Micah Parsons there.
Basically.
Because that's exactly what happened to Micah. He was an inside linebacker out of college. They moved him to outside linebacker, and then
yeah, how that goes. Double-digit sacks 2 straight years. 3 straight years, actually, because he had double-digit sacks his rookie year.
But it's all up to him. Okay. Back to Russell Wilson. Things that would kind of scare me. Because obviously the injuries, and that's why we talked about everybody. I've saw that like he would still have problems seeing in the middle of the field. I haven't seen that problem on film all that often. As a matter of fact, there's been some really good plays where he's made where it's like specifically looking in the center of the field, making some like second late reads or like last second throws and stuff, and still connected. And then plus, if you have a hard time seeing in the middle of the field, it's always good if you're a short quarterback to have a tall threat in the middle of the field. Like, for example, Drew Brees, 5'11" or something, 6 feet tall. He always was able to see Jimmy Graham. Like Russell Wilson, if he's 5'11", he's always going to be able to see Kyle Pitts. It's not like our center and everyone else in front of him is going to be super tall. I mentioned Storm Norton 6'7", but like Chris Lindstrom's 6'3", Drew Dahlman's 6'3", Matt Bergeron's 6'5". I think Jake Matthews is also like 6'5". So it's like that's not out of the norm from what he's already been dealing with before. So you wouldn't have to worry about the offensive line as far as like the height and stuff. And you can still have like your movement of the offensive line, like their zone blocking stuff, and you can still use that to your advantage. The next thing is like how many sacks he takes. And that's, again, like not only an offensive line issue where it's like that would be pretty much solved here because he hasn't had a good of an offensive line as he has this year with this offensive line in particular. Like I confirmed that with my Seahawks coworker. It's like, yeah, this would have been so much better. Especially because it's like it helps him with the run game. And then the third and probably most important downside is that he needs to mentally accept not being the hero and just being the role player in order to have that high floor. Because I want to be able to use like our balanced run game. You know, like one of the other reasons as to why we won the game the way that we did last week was because we had like a split of like 33 and 30 of like run and pass. Like that's the kind of split that I want. And if he's okay with that, that could preserve his career. That can preserve him to play extra longer. So he might not get burnt out as much. So there won't be all that many decisions that he'd have to make to cause us in a strut. Like they're beating, like he took Denver and beat not only Kansas City, but like Cleveland and like Minnesota and Buffalo and looked really good doing it, but didn't have a whole lot of passing attempts. That's exactly what I want from him now. Like, dude, just have like 20, 25 throws in that game. Complete about like 13 to 15 of them. Right? That sounds like a really small number, all things considered, but that's just a starting point, right? And then if you get confidence in you, then keep going. And if not, like if a run game is looking more hot, go with that instead. Like we have the luxury to do that. Whereas Justin, the one cross question that I want, and then we'll be kind of done with this for now. What kind of game do you want him to have tomorrow?
A sorry one. Well, I mean, okay, now the only reason I'm saying this is just because I'm like, I want him to look good, because if he looks bad, now you got the front office saying, okay, well, when he plays a good defense, is that what we're gonna get? So you kind of have to think about that. But it's kind of like, do you really want him to pop off when your playoff chances are literally on the line with this game? Like, do you want him to have a career game? Because he almost did the last year he played us. He was having a pretty good game last year. So it's like, do you really want him to have like a just blow up game and you literally need everything to go right for you in the next 2 weeks to even make it to the playoffs? It's like, yeah, no. But now the week 18, I don't really care. Have his best game as you want. Throw 500 yards if you want to. Throw it, to
200 rushing yards.
Hey, have his best game as you want. But tomorrow, keep it on the DL. 102 passing yards in 3 quarters, couple of picks. Throw a pick 6 for me because he threw one to Jeff Okuda last year, so we know it's possible. And just have a mid game. But the next week, have as good as a game as you want. Perfect game. I don't care. But just don't play good.
That's all I'm going to say. You got here too late. That's okay.
Yeah.
Because, dude, what do you think about him? If we go here, we'll pretty much have that again.
You got the running game, got the receivers, got the defense. Got to definitely have the old line. We won't have to worry about that. What else would you have? The coaching staff would probably be iffy, depending on how Arthur Smith finishes. Because you don't know if you have a new coaching staff or if you have a new head coach. But yeah, it'd be iffy either way because you don't know what you're getting with Arthur or you don't know who you're getting with the new coach. So, yeah.
He's already, first of all, he's 35. Second of all, did you just see Joe Flacco the other day?
Yeah, age doesn't really matter.
Age has not mattered. It's mattered less and less for the quarterback position.
I can't.
If he was a hurt 35, like Kirk Cousins is, and that's why we don't have enough buzz about him. That's why someone asked a crowd, I think it was Red Swarm, about like, oh hey, like, well, what about Kirk Cousins if we're talking about these quarterback comments? First off, he's hurt. Second of all, um, there just hasn't been enough buzz about him in comparison to like these other two guys for us. And then third, it's Matt Ryan again. And the fan base is not going to like that, especially when there's two quarterbacks that are,
kind of better, or at least better circumstances.
Or Browner. Anyways, anyway, let's move on to the last thing because I know that Trey at least has to get out of here. I've said my piece about like how much time we have, so let's just take care of this. Let's get the music going on here.
Did you want to?
I think so. Anyways, this is the last one for us this year. Let's see who can win it all. You know what? Chat, you decide who goes first. The first comment I see will go first. Which one of us will have the right to choose on the board? Because we've been deciding ourselves all this time, but I want chat to hopefully get invested here.
You got 30 seconds, chat.
All right, I go first. No pressure. Okay. So everybody should know this game by now. All teams this time, and I made sure that we included Chicago here.
Last one of 2023.
Let's see. I'm going to try to be as quick this time around. But it's just kind of tough because I see one real big slot that needs to be filled. And I don't know which player to use to fulfill it. Okay, anyways, I'm going to start right here. I'm going to go Brandon Marshall. 28%. Okay.
I like it. I like it. Let's see. Trying to figure because this might do something to help me for right now and later in the game. I don't remember because it hasn't really been much players in recent memory that played for both of these teams, or at least.
Because I really needed to figure out like which percentage between like him and then like Matt Forte, for example.
Oh, yeah, that could have worked too.
I was like, I feel like Matt Forte would have been a higher percentage.
Let's see.
I like how you say that, and then the comment just above you is someone doing that.
Ooh,
it's okay. My screen has to be on here. I can rarely even look at chat. And
okay,
Trey's probably looking at this too.
Probably. Okay, so we got burnt toast for Texans Steelers Desmond King.
Ooh. $14. Who else would have been chosen there?
And that's why it was kind of hard for me to do. I have to remember if he played for them in recent memory.
All right, here. What direction do I want to go? Hmm. Let's see here. I want to know what spot I want to take over. And then from there, I got to think about the team.
And the player.
And then kind of the year, too. I don't know why I'm like... I think about players from like 7, 8, 10 years ago. When I do this. Hmm. Man, why'd I have to go here? Have you experienced where, like, if you take the center spot, you have like more confusion as to what direction you have to go in order to try to win?
Yeah, I did that the first time.
Because it's like, obviously in tic-tac-toe, you want to try to do that. And you can kind of like manipulate your opponent to go to you. But here, it's like, you'd have to figure out the next couple of guesses to go and confirm that route. And that's where my brain just kind of shuts down sometimes. All right. Man.
I mean, because you could go, well, now you can't go either way, but you have multiple ways you can go. So it kind of helps.
That's that's like kind of the game mechanic problem that you don't want to have other people experience. And it's like, you know, you give them too much freedom, but then like no direction to go. And it can be really stressful. Because every time I look around at the board, I have to reset my brain to think about that team.
And then think about the player of the year. Yeah, that is kind of stressful.
Oh, I don't want to keep you here forever either, but it's like, what's going on right now? Please. 11%, thank goodness.
Wow. I forgot my big player for them.
All right, your turn.
Let's see. Okay. Hmm. Hmm. Adrian Amos for Texans Bears.
Three.
Well, almost.
All right, now it's just a race to go from left to right.
Almost 2%.
Giant jet. You'd think you'd have a lot of movement because there wouldn't be, like, at least on the player side, you know, you wouldn't have to move. See, I don't know if my problem here is that there's not enough or there's too many players.
Maybe too many. You just have to choose which jet giant you want because there's been a lot of movement between those two teams lately.
Oh, man. Of course, I can't look at anything else either. I have a name in mind.
We just gotta hope he's not 45 plus. We win.
Don't remind me.
All up to you.
Because then I'm pretty sure that like you would almost automatically win. Because if you decided to go this route, then you might have a player in mind here. Okay. I think I got a name. Leonard Williams. Thank goodness.
Wow.
28 again. Wow.
And it didn't go over.
That is
first time we went. It was a race from left to right. First time.
all right. What would have been your answer here if you had one set up?
I was kind of thinking, but did Tyrod Taylor play for the Texans?
Yes.
Yeah. That was going to be mine right there.
$45 exactly. Wow. That would not have helped you.
Seriously?
Oh my goodness. Your only guess still could have helped me out if I didn't think of anybody.
Still would have lost the game.
All right, let's fill these other things out. And then we'll just say goodbye. You know what? Since last time we didn't care about the score predictions, and then we just ended up having a score that nobody really predicted, I think I'm going to keep tradition. I'm going to stick with what works. I'm not going to give anything away. So we'll just leave our time to dedicating this one and then our closing statements. So do you have anything that seems obvious here that you want to fill out first?
Cowboys, Giants.
Oh, you just made me think of someone, if you don't mind me going.
No, you got that one.
Martellus Bennett.
Oh, wow. Okay. What? Oh, what's the defensive end that went from the Cowboys to the Bears and had a career about a year ago?
Oh, Robert Quinn.
Yeah, Robert Quinn. Yeah.
6.
Seriously.
And then Cowboys, Steelers.
All right, we gotta have our last stream of 2023 be 9 for 9. Got to, even if it's obvious.
I think the pressure is causing me to blink.
I haven't really seen any Cowboy Steelers players.
I feel like I have, but I just don't remember them as a Steeler. It's really weird.
See if I can think of something.
Or then I think of like Steelers, but then I can't remember if they ever played for the Cowboys.
Taco Charlton.
Taco for the win. A rarity score of 148 with 5%.
Beautiful.
Whew. Well, it was dinner time for me. So I know what I'm in the mood for now.
Chick-fil-A.
The Charlton family. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Like I said, we had a beefy 2-hour stream. So if you want to be here, I know that at least one of you said that you're going to watch this back, and I really appreciate that you do. And if you like our logic and then you'd want other people to kind of send it some other people's way, feel free to share it. And then we can have a discussion about it, whether you agree, whether you disagree. I'm going to check the comments. If you decide to leave a comment on either channel, I'm going to check it more frequently on the AFN page, because obviously there's more people watching it there. And then I wouldn't be able to get the updates, whereas opposed to my own channel, if you decide to do that. If you're here already, I know that at least 2 of you are, so appreciate that. And we will go from there. And tomorrow, we're going to have our other stream of the soundtracks. We're going to finally do that. The UFC games. I'm going to have to figure out how to make this bracket work, but I do have the thumbnail. So we're going to have the 4th, the UFC 1 that came out in 2014, UFC 2, UFC 3, UFC 4. So those are going to be the games. If you want to have the soundtrack kind of in your mind when you tune in, I will have those playlists in the description as always. And then we'll just enjoy ourselves with the bracket. And then that's going to be after whatever outcome happens tomorrow. So I've said this last week, and I'll say it again. We really appreciate you guys sticking around this time for this long. If there's anybody that stuck around from the very beginning that's still here, my goodness. I hope that you've learned a lot, because that was my goal here. And, maybe it either changed your opinion or solidified it, whether it was the case. But I hope that this was good. And Trey, do you have anything to say last? Because you're going to be the first one to leave here.
Last 2023 score prediction, man. Last one.
Okay.
Last one. Hey, last one.
You can go ahead and do it. I won't do it because last time I didn't. We
won?
Give me a sustainable score. I still haven't seen Dave.
All right, I got you. Sustainable score to win the game, to get our playoff chances back up, and to hit 500 for the 3rd time this year. Yes, we've been at 500 3 times this year and haven't went over it but once. But a sustainable score for 2024. That was nice, wasn't it? That was nice, I know. 17-10.
You know what? Let's see if we can copy the 29-10.
29-10. Let's do it. You know what? I'm going to choose another sustainable score. We see it all the time. Let's go 20-13.
All right. If you guys agree, or had anything else you want to say, or unless you're sticking with me and like not providing one just in the hopes that it gives you a better outcome, that's fine. If you come here late and want to give it down, that's also fine. We'll still take a look at it. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see some of you tomorrow, because it'd be fun to have a discussion live about the bracket. So until then, 2024, we're here.
Happy New Year, everyone.
It's ours for the taking. And we have to go into this year with that mentality. And that's for everybody. All right? Us as people included. Not just our team, but us as people. Let's take over, guys. In the meantime, peace.
Later.